My boyfriend never got me anything for my birthday since we started dating. My boyfriend, 26 years old, never got me, a 22-year-old woman, anything for my birthday since we started dating. I feel lost, confused, and maybe even a little foolish. But I can't shake the turmoil brewing inside me, so I need opinions, perspectives from anyone who might shed light on what feels like an emotional maze. Long story short, my boyfriend and I have been together for over a year now. We started dating in May of 2023, a month I once thought marked the beginning of a beautiful chapter in my life. His birthday falls in August, and mine comes 2 months later, in October. At first, our relationship felt magical. It was the kind of connection that made you think, this might just be the one. When his birthday arrived 3 months into our relationship, I was eager to celebrate him. Being unemployed at the time, I didn't have much, but that didn't matter. My parents, seeing how smitten I was, chipped in to help me buy him something thoughtful, a bottle of cologne and a box of chocolates. It wasn't extravagant, but it was meaningful. I carefully picked out the scent I thought would suit him best, hoping every spritz would remind him of me. The chocolates were a small indulgence, something to bring a smile to his face. I even went so far as to present them with a handwritten note, filled with sentiments that came straight from my heart. I'll never forget how excited I felt giving him those gifts. His smile seemed genuine, and I thought I saw gratitude in his eyes. Yet, when October rolled around, and it was my turn to be celebrated, the silence was deafening. There were no surprises, no thoughtful gestures, no flowers, not even a simple "let's do something special today." Nothing. It stung more than I could have anticipated. I told myself it was fine, that I shouldn't expect much. After all, wasn't it immature to crave gifts? Wasn't it materialistic to care about such things? It was my first relationship, and I didn't want to seem demanding or shallow. But deep down, I couldn't shake the hollow feeling. I had built up my expectations, dreaming of receiving at least a small token of affection, something to mark the day as ours, to show he cared. A bouquet of wild flowers picked from the side of the road would have meant the world to me. But what I received instead was an empty day, void of acknowledgement, leaving me to wonder if I mattered to him as much as he did to me. I didn't say anything at first. The words caught in my throat, swallowed by my fears of being misunderstood. But the ache lingered long after the day had passed. I replayed every moment in my mind, searching for answers. Did he forget? Was he too busy? Or worse, did he simply not care? The more I thought about it, the harder it became to keep my feelings bottled up. A few days after my birthday, I decided to bring it up, albeit cautiously. "I was a little sad you didn't do anything for my birthday," I said, keeping my tone light, almost playful, as though I wasn't aching inside. His response was casual, almost dismissive. "I'll get you something for Christmas." Christmas? That was 2 months away. The promise did little to soothe the growing knot in my chest. But I smiled and nodded, desperate to avoid an argument or seem ungrateful. When December arrived, he did give me a gift, a bracelet that didn't quite fit, both literally and figuratively. It felt like an afterthought, like something he picked up only because he felt obligated. As grateful as I tried to be, the thought gnawed at me. Would he have done this if I hadn't said anything? Or was this his way of silencing me, of checking a box so he could move on? I tried to push those doubts aside, telling myself to focus on the good. After all, at least he got me something in the end. But the sadness from my birthday lingered like a shadow, and I couldn't forget the disappointment I felt on the day I had so eagerly awaited. I mentioned my feelings to him a few days after my birthday. I was careful, delicate, even. My voice was soft, almost apologetic, as if my disappointment was something I needed to justify. "I just felt a little sad that nothing happened on my birthday," I said, my eyes avoiding his, unsure of how he'd react. He barely paused before responding, "I'll get you something for Christmas." The words landed flat, devoid of sincerity. There was no remorse, no acknowledgement of my hurt. It wasn't even a promise, it was a deflection. His tone was casual, almost dismissive, as though this was a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things. I felt a pang of guilt for even bringing it up, like I was asking for too much. I told myself to let it go, to wait for Christmas and see if he'd follow through. Maybe he just wasn't the kind of person who made a big deal out of birthdays. Not everyone did, right? But deep down, I knew it wasn't about the gift. It was about effort, about feeling cherished, about the principle of being thought of and valued. When Christmas finally came, I unwrapped a small, hastily wrapped box to find a bracelet inside. It was fine, not exactly my style, not the right size, but fine. Yet, the gesture felt hollow. It didn't feel like a thoughtful gift chosen with care. It felt like a box checked, an obligation met, something to appease me so I wouldn't bring it up again. "Do you like it?" he asked, his voice light, as if my answer didn't really matter. "Yeah, it's nice," I replied, forcing a smile to cover the sting in my heart. But that Christmas morning, as I sat there holding that ill-fitting bracelet, I couldn't stop thinking about my birthday, the emptiness of that day, the unspoken disappointment that still lingered. The gift, if anything, felt like a confirmation of my fears. This wasn't about me. It was about silencing me. As the months went on, I tried to bury the resentment. I reminded myself of his good qualities, the way he could make me laugh, how he'd check in on me when I was sick, the little moments that made me fall for him in the first place. But even the best memories couldn't erase the sadness I felt every time I thought about how little effort he put into celebrating me. Then October came again, and with it, my birthday. I told myself not to expect anything this time, to protect myself from the disappointment. But no matter how much I tried to lower my expectations, a small, hopeful part of me whispered that maybe this year would be different. Maybe he'd remember how hurt I was last year and do something to make up for it. 3 days before my birthday, he mentioned that he'd gotten me a present. "It's on its way," he said casually, scrolling through his phone as he spoke. My heart leapt at the thought. Maybe this was it. Maybe he'd listened after all. But then I noticed something in his tone, a sense of detachment that didn't quite sit right. "It's not that I was expecting something," I thought to myself, trying to temper my emotions. "But it's about the principle. The principle that birthdays, regardless of how materialistic they might seem, are an opportunity to show someone you care. A simple gesture, a handwritten note, a single flower, or even just a heartfelt plan for the day would have been enough." But as the hours ticked closer to my birthday, something inside me began to falter. I had his present ready a month before his birthday. I put thought into it, spent time planning it out, and saved up to make it happen. I wanted him to feel special, to know I cared. It wasn't just a gift, it was an effort to show him how much he meant to me. That's what makes this whole situation so much harder to swallow. I don't know if I sound childish writing this, or if I come across as someone who's overly focused on material things. But the truth is, this isn't about the gift itself, it's about what it represents. Now, almost a month has passed since my birthday, and that so-called present he claimed was on its way is still missing. I've asked him about it 2 or 3 times, trying to sound casual, as if I wasn't desperately hoping for a different answer. The first time, he told me it hadn't arrived yet. "Probably some shipping delay," he said with a shrug, scrolling through his phone as though it was the least of his worries. The second time I brought it up, he gave a new excuse. "Oh, I reordered it," he said, avoiding eye contact. "There was a discount, so I decided to buy it cheaper." I didn't know what to say. A discount? He'd delayed my gift, something he already seemed indifferent about, to save a few dollars. The word stung more than I could admit. But I let it slide, telling myself not to make a big deal out of it. Maybe I was overthinking things. The third time, his tone was dismissive, almost rehearsed. "It'll arrive tomorrow," he said. You can come and pick it up then. But tomorrow came and went, and still, nothing. No gift, no explanation, just the familiar emptiness I was starting to associate with my birthdays. Meanwhile, my parents had been asking about it. What did your boyfriend get you for your birthday? They asked, their voices warm and curious, expecting me to light up with excitement as I shared the details. I froze every time. How could I tell them the truth? That for the second year in a row, I'd received nothing. Not even a card, not even a simple gesture of acknowledgement. It felt humiliating to admit that the man I was supposed to share my life with hadn't put in the slightest bit of effort. It hasn't arrived yet, I'd mumble, hoping they wouldn't press further. But my face burned with embarrassment every time the topic came up. What made it worse was that I knew it wasn't about money. It wasn't as if he couldn't afford it. Just a few weeks earlier, one of his friends had scratched his car, nothing major, just a tiny dent. But the very next day, he went out and bought that friend an expensive bottle of whiskey as a thank you for helping him out. He couldn't stop bragging about it. I got him the good stuff, he said with pride, showing me the sleek, glass bottle as if it were a trophy. I smiled weakly, trying to hide the lump forming in my throat. He had no trouble spending on his friend, no hesitation in going out of his way to make him feel appreciated. But when it came to me, it felt like I was always an afterthought. It wasn't the whiskey that bothered me, it was the principle. If he could go out of his way for his friend, why couldn't he do the same for me? Was I not as important as I thought I was? The question lingered in my mind, haunting me at every turn. 2 years in a row, I'd felt the same sting of disappointment on my birthday. It wasn't just about the gift, it was about the lack of effort, the lack of care. He didn't even try to make me feel special. No dinner, no flowers, no time set aside just for us. Nothing. I'd convinced myself that love wasn't about grand gestures or material things, that it was about the little moments that made you feel cherished. But when those moments never came, it was hard not to feel like something was missing. He could have at least invited me out to spend time together. That would have been enough for me. A simple dinner, a walk in the park, or even just sitting together and talking. It didn't have to cost anything. Just the thought of him wanting to make the day about us, to make me feel special, would have meant the world to me. But not even that crossed his mind. It leaves me wondering what I'm supposed to think. Am I expecting too much? I don't want people to think I'm shallow or materialistic. I've told myself time and time again that gifts don't define a relationship, that love isn't measured in flowers or chocolates or shiny things. But doesn't it mean something when your partner takes the time to show you they care? Isn't it normal to want to feel appreciated on your birthday, the one day of the year meant to celebrate you? I try to understand his perspective, to justify his actions or lack thereof. Maybe he's just not the type of person who thinks birthdays are a big deal. Maybe he shows his love in other ways. But even as I try to reason with myself, I can't help but feel hurt. What bothers me the most is his empty promises. Why even bring up a present if you probably never bought it in the first place? Why tell me it's coming when it's clear you haven't made any effort to get it? It's not about the gift, it's about the principle. The principle of keeping your word, of caring enough to follow through. And now, I feel stuck. I can't bring it up a fourth time. I just can't. Every time I've mentioned it, I felt like I was begging for his attention, like I was desperate for a present. But that's not it. It's not the present I want, it's the thought, the effort, the feeling of being valued. I need opinions because I feel like I'm losing my sense of what's normal, what's fair, and what I deserve. Am I overreacting? Am I expecting too much from him? Or is it okay to feel this way, to want someone to show they care, even in small, thoughtful ways? Right now, I feel sad. No, I feel heartbroken. Not because of the lack of a gift, but because of what that absence seems to say. That I'm not a priority, not someone worth the effort. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when I've tried so hard to show him how much I care. I don't know what's next for us. Part of me wants to let this go, to accept that he's just not someone who expresses love in the way I hope for. But another part of me wonders if this is a bigger problem, a sign that we might not be as compatible as I once thought. All I know is that I feel alone in this, and I'm not sure how to move forward.